Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving the signal via the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom again? We the people of the United States and elsewhere. Folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Long weekend, great weekend. How was your weekend? Anyway, without further ado, we pass it on to the great guys, the geniuses, the ones who make things happen in El Estudio. And that is El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jack Van Bevel. Man, what was I thinking?
You must have been thinking Rick.
Rick, my dog. Yes, he was. He knows how to run this morning, but not as good as Jack does, and better than I can. Good morning. It is Monday morning at the studio, the 14th of April, and happy birthday to my two granddaughters who were born upon this day. Same date, 2 years later. So that's kind of fun. Let's see, what do we have here?
You're good for keeping schedules, aren't you?
Yeah, well,
you celebrate like a hell of a schedule.
Well, it's my granddaughters, you know.
You have to be on time for granddaughters.
Yeah, that's true. I have 4 of them, and I love every one of them. They're all very unique. The firstborn was born, of course, on 14th of April, and she is about as opposite as the other one can be. She is flamboyant. She is bright. She is all about me. The second granddaughter, born on the date, couldn't be any more diametrically opposed to that. It's like 180 degrees. Like, are you sure that you were born out of the same family? One compared to the other. Anyway, had a pretty good weekend this weekend. We did the art car parade. Jack was down there helping me, my dutiful, helpful helper, and bringing chairs and setting things up and
running little wires to hook up with.
Mm-hmm. And so he did all the work, and I got to sit back and watch him work, which is kind of fun.
Your magic box worked again, eh? The internet box.
Well, no, we didn't do a live broadcast from there. We didn't do that.
Okay.
That was poo-pooed, so we didn't do it. Anyway, let's see what else. Fighting with MAGAs, yeah. And it looks like our the felon in chief is going to defy the Supreme Court order, bringing that man back.
You know, so, and we are only 3 months in, or less than 3 months in. Wow.
Mm-hmm. He's already defying Supreme Court orders. He says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this," but won't give them an update on anything. He says, "Oh no, we can't do that." So he's going to defy a Supreme Court order. We'll see if he gets away with it. And that's about it, Jack. And there's no wisdom on your face this morning.
I know. I just really couldn't get it going this morning. It was so I'm gonna just recite Oligarch's Pledge because that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the corporations of the United Empire of America and to the economy for which it enslaves all peoples, demonizes and devalues them, passes the profits to the elite 1% with punishment and tyranny for the poor. Slackers.
All right.
Y'all read that every day.
Well, actually, we should, but that would be hijacking Egberto's show again, which we'd love to do, but you know,
I enjoy. You don't know. I enjoy as I'm listening to my two brothers in the studio doing their thing. It's like yay! But you know, talking about weekends, I had a great weekend. It was kind of busy because whenever I go out in the field, it means I have to stay up even longer. But hey, the thing is, we had this weekend Latin Fest in Sugarland, you know, and
the group that I'm a part of, who is presided by El Presidente Roberto Luis, my brother in crime from Panama. We actually had a participation along with Sisi, a great pollera and montuno, and we had the cultural dances on the stage from Panama and on other countries, of course. But it was great. It just felt great eating all that food from Central and South America, and having the salsa and merengue and bachata and all the good music out there this weekend. So, hey, for the guys who put together that Latin Fest, it's a huge festival. They did a great job. Folks were the weather was great. Sat down on the lawns, doing some really, really, really good work. So kudos to Latin Fest and kudos to my brother, leader Pantex, for that great outing that we had. But you know, a lot happened this week, and I want to start with something bizarre. And I led the newsletter with it, and I was surprised that Brother Jack didn't come and say, why would they do that? You know, I just knew Jack was going to say Social Security forced to use Twitter, also known as X, because I don't know how many people find that shocking, but I find it shocking. According to this report, the Social Security news, when Social Security has something to report that they normally did with a press release to news organizations and otherwise, they are now going to release that on X, meaning on Twitter. First of all, we know a lot of older folks don't use Twitter. Second of all, we know, unlike even other social media platforms, Twitter is one of the smallest. So it doesn't have, even though a lot of us in the news media, we use Twitter a lot and X and well, I use mostly Blue Sky now. These aren't big platforms like, let's say, Facebook and other platforms. But again, even that, the idea is if the Social Security has real information to release, you want it released to the record media, both independent and otherwise, not something on Twitter. And the article gave the impression that, well, this is to kind of bring more users to Twitter and bring more users to Elon Musk, and that they did it because it's Elon Musk. First of all, yeah, they did it because Elon Musk is Doge. That's true. But there's something a lot more sinister than that. And this is what I wish the article would have covered, but I didn't see it anywhere in the article. One of the biggest ways that we were able to disperse misinformation throughout the election, was through Twitter. And you can imagine that as they destroy the Social Security offices, the regional offices, etc., and the mainstream media starts to put out what's occurring, or even the independent media starts putting out how the Trump administration is destroying Social Security. And by the way, when we say destroying Social Security, we mean that. And there's a reason why they're doing that. But I'll hold on that for a minute. The idea is to have a Twitter, an X, out there as the official source of the Social Security office, lying to you, giving you misinformation, and then having other people, other organizations on Twitter expanding on the misinformation being placed on Twitter so that they can drive a narrative, so that you can continue to be fooled. This is yet another thing that you should be going to your congressperson about, because your congressperson has the ability to put within the law that all Social Security press releases must go through our standard media, independent and mainstream. It is imperative that we don't allow this slow, every day we hear something new. Every day it is like boiling the frog, right? I know this story isn't necessarily true, but it's an analogy we always bring. You put a frog in boiling water, or rather, you put a frog in water, tap water, and you put that water on the stove, but you gradually increase the heat, slowly, slowly, slowly. That frog doesn't detect accordingly this delta heat, change in heat. By the time it starts detecting that it's cooking, it's too late. It's already burnt. It's already not sauteed, but boiled. That is how this administration is working. Every day, there's a little something that changes. Every day. And the Republican side does nothing about it. And except for a few on the Democratic side, like AOC and Bernie Sanders and a couple of senators, including the guy who did the filibuster, Cory Booker and others, they would raise hell. But other than that, it is as if acceptance, and that is how the boiling frog thing works, right? Acceptance to what's being done. Well, that modal has to change before it gets too late, before the frog starts boiling, before we start boiling. And that only begins with you. So one of the things we do here as an educational channel is to tell you what's happening and to tell you what you can do about it if you don't want that to happen. If you don't want X to corrupt the information coming from Social Security, which will endanger your Social Security checks, your disability checks, your things, etc., it is on you. The party is not coming to save any of you. The only thing that's going to save all of us is if all of us force our own representative, the way the Constitution was designed to work, force our representatives into doing the right thing. And that may start with a phone call. That may start with giving a visit singly or collectively to your congressperson. That may mean just for once saying, you know what? For the benefit of this entire country, all of us have to act, and all of us have to start acting now. Folks, this isn't a joke. This isn't something that we should be, this isn't a right and left issue. This is not only a democracy issue, but this is something that will have a material effect on your life. And a lot of these things, when baked in, when signed into law, remember, when something is signed into law, if you don't have a willing majority in Congress to buck a system, it is very hard to change. And what we're seeing here is that instantiated, something that we need to do something about rather quickly. And I hope those who are listening to the program right now don't only think about it, but talk about it. Tell your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your wives, your daughters, everybody about what's happening. This isn't a simple thing. It sounds simple. Social Security is going to start announcing its press releases on Twitter. Are you kidding me? And Twitter, the bastion of misinformation, the bastion of right-wing propaganda. Folks, if you want the truth, you're going to have to force this on. Anyway, telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I have an important video on depression to talk about, and I'm not talking about mental depression. I'm talking about economic depression. But before I get there, it seems like Bruce is on the line, so let's go ahead and have Bruce call in. on the. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I'll tell you about something that happened before you were born. This was 1968 or 7 when I was 13, 14 years old. 2 doors down from me was a little girl, about 4 or 5 years old, sweetest thing in the world. And she knocks on my front door. So I answered the door, and she wants to know, can I play with Lassie? Well, I had a collie dog, and I guess she thought it was Lassie. So I brought the dog out, and she loved on that dog, and that dog gave it right back. All right, sweetest thing you ever saw. Well, I never saw the little girl again. It turns out she came down with childhood leukemia and passed away. Didn't make her 6 or 7. But anyway, this same dog on the other side of me, the house next door on the other side, both parents worked, and there was a couple teenage girls who watched their younger siblings. They had no adult in the house. And one of those girls told me that one day she spotted an intruder in the backyard and screamed. And she said that guy ran and jumped the fence into my yard and barely made it in my yard, came flying back over the fence with a tear in the seat of his pants. She said she saw that collie dog, that sweet dog that loved on that little girl, hit that guy like a missile and bite him in the ass. All right, so that dog discriminated between friend and foe. Now, Donald Trump, he wants MAGA to think he's Cujo, that he's a junkyard dog. And he's hurting our alliances around the world with our friends. So the moral of the story, well, it's not Aesop's fable. It's a true story. But the moral of the story is I had a dog that was smarter than Donald Trump. Here's the other thing I want to say is this is for the caller last week that wanted us to give Trump a chance. You know, if you have an infected boil on your butt, you can't let it fester, Lester. I'm done.
That's a good one. Thank you, my dear brother. And you're absolutely right, sir. There are certain things you can't wait for, because waiting for means people die. Waiting for means people get harmed, people get hurt. And as far as we're concerned, as an important news source, as an important source to give truth information, we can't wait. So thank you so kindly for that, Bruce. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't let our democracy be dying, Brian. And if we don't do something, it'll kill us, Willis. I'm done.
I like your rhyming. I'm going to turn you into a rapper, man. Anyway, I brought up Substack late, but for those that I can see so far, welcome aboard Laurel Kettner, Stephen Dolan, Janice C., Steven Silva, Didi Cortinas, Gailey Kunis, LBW, Nancy Douglas, Tabitha Evans. Thank you guys for being here on our Substack platform. Let's go ahead and bring Brother Prince Winston into the fold. Come on in, Winston.
Egberto, when are you going to get it? The two-party system is controlled opposition. It's that simple. Wake up, please.
Okay, I don't disagree that both of the parties, specifically the neoliberal wings of each parties, are controlled by the same people. But what I'd like to ask you, Winston, and I say this respectfully, tell me, what is your path forward in the short term for us to get some modicum of support for the working class? I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying. But a lot of folks get upset when I skew left, as if it's just a blind support of a Democratic Party. That's not the case, but give me your path.
I have to repeat myself. I'm sorry, but it's controlled opposition. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need some time to think about what the implications are. I could refer you to Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope. We're very deep into it, like in the 700 pages. Mm-hmm. He actually talks about this. So I hate to repeat myself on one end, but must say it's controlled opposition. The two-party system is a farce. It's theater.
Winston. We're here for solutions, right? So my question to you, and
No. We have to identify the problem first. Don't talk over me, Egberto.
Winston, hold on. Winston, I'm asking you a question. Winston, you've repeated yourself. That's why I interrupted. You repeated yourself. My question to you, Winston, and this is coming, I think, from the same side of the ideological spectrum. My question to you, Winston, what's the path? In other words, we have a duopoly. How do you transition from a duopoly to something that actually doesn't have that controlled opposition you speak about, which you are correct about? Again, I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Glenn Ryan the same thing.
I don't have an answer. I do not have a solution.
Okay, and my answer to you then is the following. I think what I am doing on a per incident and per thing issue until we have that answer, because it's not for that dying grandmother, for that grandmother who's going to lose Social Security, for that person who's going to lose disability, right? Remember, we're on the same ideological side. It is evident to me. But I have to work for people who are having...
It is not ideological. I'm not speaking from an ideology. I'm trying to identify the paradigm that we're trying to operate within. And if we don't name it properly, we don't have a chance to find a solution.
Okay, I have some issues with you saying it's not named properly. Because I don't think if you are a person who read every single newsletter that I put out there, I don't know how you could possibly say it is not named. Okay? So
if you're not identifying it as controlled opposition, these two farcical parties, then you haven't properly named it. And if you haven't named it properly or accurately, then you don't stand a chance of finding a solution. You're not dealing with reality if you haven't named it accurately.
Well, Winston, I am. Look, let's put it this way, and then I want to go to two callers. But I want to point this out.
Go ahead.
And this is a problem many have with folks who may consider themselves on the left. Or I don't know where you consider yourself.
Stop it. Just stop it, Egberto. There's no left or right.
Actually, there is. No. There is a left and a right. There is a left and a right. That's a statement of fact.
Where is the common ground in that paradigm? Where is the common ground in that paradigm? Isn't that what we're looking for?
No, exactly. But listen to what I'm saying. The root cause. Here's the interesting thing that you're saying here, and I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. Here's what you just said. You come on Politics Done Right, and you say, what's the word that you use?
What? Wait. I didn't hear you.
You come on to Politics Done Right, and you use the phrase. I forgot the name now. What do you call controlled opposition? Use the word control.
I can't believe that's not in your lexicon. I can't believe that.
Let me tell you why it's not. Let me tell you why it's not.
Okay.
Hold on. Again, you got to make one. I listen to you. You listen to me, Winston. Come on. All right. You use the term controlled opposition. Okay. To the people that listen to this show and many others, they don't know what the hell controlled opposition means. When I talk to them about
educate them.
Let me wait a second. I don't educate them. I don't educate them with using your phraseology.
They don't understand this phrase.
Why are you interrupting me, Winston? Why are you interrupting me? Listen to what I'm saying. All right, here we go. Controlled opposition. That's something that we use in an elite form of conversation. If I go to somebody now and I say you're interrupting me again.
The conversation that you're having is very low. If controlled opposition is a foreign concept to your listeners, then you have failed in your endeavor.
Well, I think that's how a lot of let me not say that, but let me just say this, okay? If when I say control the opposition, that can have a whole lot of meanings. When I look at people and say the problem that you have is the economic system that we have, and then put it in words that they see in everyday.
We have a two-party system.
There we go.
Two-party system.
Winston, unless you're going to let me make the phrase like I allowed you to speak in the beginning, you can't get anywhere.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Come on.
I tell you what, we're not going to get anywhere, Winston. We're not going to get anywhere because every time I speak, my brother, you interrupt me. I don't do that to you. So we'll move on. Thank you very much, Winston. Look, one of the, and I'm coming to you, Junior and Lester, but let me tell you one of the issues that I have. One of the issues that I have many times with folks, he doesn't like the left and right paradigm. He also wants us to centralize on the choice of words he's using from a over 700-page thing that he's reading. Understood. As a host, it is irresponsible of me to simply speak from these high tone levels. If you want me to speak in high levels of abstraction and all these issues, I could. But why? I am not trying to let anybody believe that, well, I know all these fancy terms when people's lives are suffering and they're going to work every day and don't understand what's going on. My responsibility as a host is to tell people what they can do in the immediacy to get their problems solved, and also in the long term for structural change. That long term from a structural change comes when I talk about a capitalist economic system run by the corporations without wings that harms. That is a long-term structural. What can they do today within a duopoly, within a two-party system, within a Democratic and Republican Party system that get things done? They have to get up tomorrow morning and go to work and survive. Many of us have the privilege, or many have the privilege and the ability, because whether Trump wins or somebody or whoever wins, they'll be okay. They may be stressed a bit, but there are people that this economic system, that this political system is materially affecting today. And that's not only those on the left, that's also my MAGA brothers and sisters. That's my lefty brothers and sisters. I have to find a way to communicate in such a manner that everybody can get some sort of help going on for the system, not from those who can sit back and read different manifestos and understand in detail what's going on. I get it, Winston. I get it, Glenn. But there are people that are not privileged to have what tomorrow is going to bring, like both of you seem to have. And we have to work for everybody. All right, let's go to Junior. Junior, you're on. Are you there, Junior? Okay, let's put Junior on hold and go to Lester.
Yeah, good morning, sir. First of all, I'd like to say that to the last caller, Winston, we got to respect the host, man. God bless you, Egberto, because you got way more patience than me, brother. KPFT allows us to call in and give our views, but we got to respect one another, man. So I apologize for that last caller. Earlier you was naming some Democrats who speak out. I'm surprised you didn't call Jasmine Crockett name. That's a
sorry. I apologize for that. You're absolutely right about that, sir. Go ahead.
Man, that sister there, that's a bad sister there. But say, man, my thing is, the only difference between me, you, Winston, my good friend Steve, who has been following me for 30 years, not only at this station, but other stations, only difference between us and Mr. Trump is he's the president And I'm going back to he that is without fault cast the first stone. And that's why I say, instead of us with all this doom and gloom, let's pray for the man. Because the poor, Egberto, I mean, I agree with you. People living from paycheck to paycheck, day to day. But, man, the poor are going to be with you always, man. So, I'm not saying forget about them, man, but up under Democrat, Republican, the poor are going to be with us, man. And said...
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, brother. No. Continue, Lester. Continue.
I'm listening.
All right, let me just say that, Lester, we had the caller that listened to you all over the thing and spoke about you. You're right. KPFT is here for everybody to give their point of view, and I accept and I respect everybody's point of view. I will continue to disagree with you about the pray for. We have a different way of thinking about things when it comes to Donald Trump. You're correct that there's a lot. The poor would always be around. Now, here's the thing, though. There are economic models that we can follow to sort of mitigate that, but that's for another story. So I want to close out with you by saying this. Okay, we are going to disagree on how we handle Donald Trump. I see that you're fixed in the way you believe that. So we're going to be there. As far as the disrespect that Winston gave is, we find a lot of times how the people we consider on the right address us, folks of us that try to be, very progressive. But what is untold, one of the reasons progressives themselves are not successful many times is that conversations that you heard between myself and Winston. Winston is likely much closer to me than any MAGA person can be, right? But because we are not fixated in using the terminology that he wants to use, he's obstinate that until I do X, nothing else can happen. That's his position. His rigidity is until you do this, nothing else can move forward, and you must accept this first. I go into progressive spaces all over this country. And whereas people on the right, whether they agree internally within that space, they find some way to have that communication. I find that more difficult, believe it or not, on the left. I don't know if he likes to call himself the left, but based on the things that he said, it's the things that the left believes, right? We find that is, you call it disrespectful. I call it something else, that the way he addressed the issue proper, because I really don't care about if you call me, you cuss me out, you call me whatever. I really don't care. It's not about me, honestly. When I tell you my skin is thick, it's not an act. It's real. So that doesn't bother me. The conversation is what I am concerned about. And that's why, even as some folks would get pissed at me having you on and spending this much time with you, I want other people to hear it, because what you think represents a lot of people as well. Your call in here represents a lot of people. But Lester, I want to go, Lester, because I got a 10-minute piece to play and I want to get to Ray. So let's talk another day. Okay. Thank you, brother. Let's go to Ray.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Let's go to Ray. Brother Ray, my brother from another mother. Come on in.
Yes, sir, Egbert. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me.
All right. Well, I wanted to actually go back to Winston's conversation. I agree with you when you say he was obstinate and argumentative, and I don't think he approached the topic very well. But I think he brought up a fairly good point that's worth discussing if we could discuss it in a little bit more appropriate manner.
Not to interrupt you. I just want the audience to know that I agree with what you just said, and I agree that what Winston said has a big purpose. And so, continue, please.
Well, I do. I think that there is an elite group of world dominant people, and I'm going to call them leaders because they lead a lot of people that we think are actually in control, who are not quite as in control as we think they are. Mm-hmm. And those people are all influenced by money and power.
Amen.
And we call it the elite, and they exist. And they do wield power over both the left and the right. And I believe that's exactly what Winston is referring to when he talks about controlled opposition. And this bickering back and forth that the left and the right are doing everywhere, on your show, but everywhere, I think is part of their design. And so I think that maybe helps some of your callers understand what Winston was trying to get at, and maybe he just wasn't explaining it well.
Let me ask you something, Raymond. Let me ask you something because, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of little things that we argue back and forth. You mentioned Social Security earlier in the show, and you think that Donald Trump's administration wants to do away with it. Well, I disagree with that. I think Donald Trump wants to reinforce and support Social Security. But there, you and I are on different perspectives of the same argument, and that's exactly the design of the controlled opposition. Get us arguing over all these little things that matter to a lot of people, but in the grand scope of the world economy, they're fairly insignificant. Go ahead, Egberto.
Okay, sure. Let me tell you what my thought. First of all, let me just hit Social Security since you end on that. There are two schools of thoughts when it comes to things like Social Security and social programs. And the right simply doesn't believe in them. They believe in the privatization of those programs, or they believe in having more private-based charities than social programs, etc. So I think I don't agree with you that Donald Trump would love to have that. I mean, I think Social Security is something, if they could find a privatized way to get rid of, they likely would. But I think their action says that. Now, when it comes to what you mentioned about, we are bickering about the little things. You're absolutely right. But a lot of the little things are things of immediacy for people. If somebody doesn't get that $1,500 or $2,000 Social Security check, one of the initial goals is to go ahead and have them get in that until we can make all these other major changes on the top. I hope you realize on my, even though some people accuse me of giving, let's say, our MAGA brothers, I don't know if you consider yourself MAGA or not, but our MAGA brothers and sisters too much leeways on a program that purports itself to be very progressive like mine. My thing is, because I understand one thing, most of us are in fact benefit from what we as progressives promote, but also when asked under blind tests whether this is what people want, except for social issues, people want what progressives are saying they want to offer in the aggregate. Now, the fact of the matter is, here's where you, Winston, Glenn, everybody is correct. And that is progressives, a lot of people who purport themselves to be progressives on either side of the aisle, in fact, they don't execute on the things that people really want. And it's been polled where the things that get passed in Congress are basically the things that corporations agree that they want. And those are the things we want to change. When Winston talked about that being controlled opposition, it's a phrase that I use more apt for people, and that is working within the rails. In other words, you have a left rail and a right rail, but guess what? With those rails are going in the same direction. So even if as rails turn, both of them are turning. As they go straight, both of them are going straight. What you read, and I've written articles about this, what we really need is a derailment. But how do you get to a derailment where you don't kill all the people on the train? And that is the sort of stuff that is a balance that we're talking about. I'll finish up for me, Raymond, so I can go to the other call.
That was very well said, Egberto. I really agree with that derailment philosophy that you just put out there. The Social Security is just one issue. I think another thing you said that's absolutely right is that the left and the right both have the same motives in mind. They both want what's best for the majority of people.
Right.
Where they differ is how to get there.
Agreed. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And this whole controlled opposition influencing the argument, what you're saying about you don't think Donald Trump wants to keep Social Security going, well, what I see is he's hired a team of specialists to save it from its own peril, because
it was having so much theft and corruption going on in the system. He's trying to clean it up so that it can be a good, solvent program to support the people. That's what I see.
I know.
And
I thank you for. I appreciate
that. So, okay, go ahead. I know you have to move on.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, but here's where I disagree. The people, and please, from somebody who is a former software developer, please understand that what I see Doge doing in Social Security is not only a danger, it doesn't fix efficiency. And if there was really fraud occurring in Social Security, especially having Donald Trump as president, you'd have already seen the Justice Department make big issues out of these fraudsters that you're not going to see. So mark my word, we'll talk about this, let's say 3 months down the road. You'll see that none of the fraud that you speak about actually materializes. We had inspector generals that were really doing their jobs. But let's continue this talk another day, Raymond. Thank you so kindly for calling, and thank you for your civility, brother. All right?
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Betty. Come on in, Betty.
Hi, good morning, Alberto. Oh, the frog story brought me out. What about Trump? He pulls the legs off the frogs and fry them, and he throws the live bodies in the trash. They can't, that's it for them. They can't move. But this is something really that I noticed this Saturday at the store. It hit me. The Spanish America, they're not walking close together anymore. They're holding their breath. Their eyes are wide open, not saying anything, looking over their shoulder. I noticed that about a month now, but it really hit me Saturday. I am a tough cookie, but I broke when I got home. Boo-hoo. This is what Trump is making America very unhappy. Love y'all.
Thank you, sis. Love you too, girl. All right. Wow, I need to play this thing, but the calls keep coming. I tell you what, let's go to Donald, and you guys come first. Before I go to Donald, look, I have an important 8-minute piece on depression that I did yesterday. Fiscal depression for the country. I'm going to take these calls. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to play it, so it's at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I wrote a whole article about it as well, but I think it's an important read on depression right now, folks. So let's go to Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you today?
I am doing fine, brother. Talk to me.
Good. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But here's the old adage, a chicken in every pot. It doesn't matter if you have a chicken if you don't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. And that's it.
You know what? That's it, and that's to the point, and that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, brother. All right, let's go to David. Come on in, David.
Oh, morning, Egberto. Yeah, I've been saying for years that Donald Trump is organized crime. He's not political. He's organized crime. And he got his start by doing money laundering. And when he crashes the economy like this, he pretends that he can have the various other types of currency instead of the U.S. dollar, and that they'll bounce him up. But what he doesn't realize is that if he ruins the U.S. dollar, which he's doing, all of those other currencies start to crash too. So what is the value of another currency if it's not based against the U.S. dollar? So he's does he want us to go over to the Russian ruble? Does he want us to go over to Saudi Arabian money? Does he want us to go to some other kind of value? No, the guy he's organized crime, and he's not smart enough to. Well, we know what he does in his pants. He has diapers. So he's not smart enough, and his MAGA crowd they're following him right over a cliff.
The people that I feel for, David, is the MAGA crowd, because as I try to point out to Winston, etc., one of the reasons I
bring that up is that when you query these people from an ideological standpoint, we all are trying to get, as even I think Raymond just said, we're trying to get to the same place, which is true. And these guys are suffering for a high stakes game that Donald Trump doesn't understand, but some of the people behind him know well that in the destruction of many can profit a few. By the destruction of many, a few can profit, and that's where we are at right now. That is where we're at with the tariffs. That's where we're at with all these issues. And the guy isn't cognizant enough to understand that what he's doing has worldwide implications. Ray Dalio, the hedge fund manager, and I don't believe in hedge funds in the capitalist system, etc. But this guy has been trying to taper capitalism for some time. He's a capitalist, don't get me wrong, but he wants a hell of a lot more control on capitalism. And, this guy runs billions of dollars through his funds, and this guy's running scared. And this guy is in running scared. He made me scarier than he made me more scared than I was previous because of what he knows of. Again, it's not a financial system, it's not an economic system I stand for, but we're working within the rules of this economic system. And under the rules of this economic system, what's occurring right now puts us in grave danger of not a recession, but a depression. And that's what that video that I was going to play, that's 8 minutes long, was going to be about, but we don't have the time now. So it can be found at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, well, if you saw that little, I think it was an 11-second clip the other day when the stock market crashed and he's in the White House laughing with his buddies about, this guy made $2 billion in one day. If he crashed the economy, what is it, $6 trillion in one day, or 2 days, $6 trillion in 2 days, and somebody made a measly $2 billion after the value of the entire nation falls by. These guys are, do the math on
that's psychopath. That's psychopathic behavior. Yeah. David, and that's why I remember what I said before. Remember when I said the harm to the many for the profit of a few. And that is exactly what it is. I can, and that's what capitalism does, right? If I put a little bit something here, I get a bunch for me. But all those that get harmed, or all those that actually did the work, aren't compensated because it is funneled to me. That is it. That is the design of the system. If you break the system down into its design is to make the most. Work on the backs of others. You are smart if you can do a little bit of work and get a lot of pay for it. It's not about work. It's about being able to abuse somebody else and profit from it. That's the difference between
about the value.
Go ahead. Yes.
The value of the U.S. dollar gets diminished so much by that $6 trillion crash.
Yes.
The $2 billion becomes scraps of pennies.
Exactly.
It's not even hundredths of pennies. It's thousands of pennies in the value of $6 trillion, and so the entire value of America gets diminished. And so he's going to have these scraps of pennies and pretend. I've got my grandfather's old stamp collection from Germany, and the hyperinflation. It used to be that a pfennig was a penny. And that's what it took to send a letter. But they had 50,000 marks, and then they stamped over it 6 million marks. Mm-hmm. The value of a pfennig became 6 million marks, and then up to 6 billion Deutschmarks. it was the equivalent of pennies. So that's what Trump is doing here, and he is stupid. But he's organized crime, and he thinks that he's showing off to his buddies, but he's actually diminished the value of the U.S. dollar so much,
David,
that nobody in the world
David,
is going to want to.
Correct. David, you're correct, and I got to go. I got 2 more callers in just a few minutes, but here's the deal. You're correct, and let me tell you, one of the things that we hope to do is to let people be aware of that. So thank you so kindly. Ed Green says, I have been only supporting progressive Democrats, not corporate Democrats and their PACs. Watch now how they voted. Give them my peace of mind. If needed, look for progressives to replace them. There are now almost 80 progressives in the House. Educate, organize. Trump is a common. Let me tell you, Ed, what I like about what Ed's statement was on Substack, why I made sure to read it. Other Substack comments, I can't get to it right now. But what Ed said is very important. Ed has a solution. It's a step solution. And that is what I talk to others about. Let's look at doing those steps as we actually work towards the bigger thing. And thank you for that statement, Ed. That is an important statement, very important statement. Let's go to Augie.
Good morning. Hey,
Good morning, my brother.
He's talking about idealism. We need to talk about realism, what's really going on. We were talking about words and arguing while the country is falling apart. We got a guy who's a convicted felon, a guy who American banks won't lend any money to, a guy who cheats on his workers, his contractors, and he hates immigrants, but he loves to marry them and then cheat on them. So the reality is we got to get rid of this guy, plus all the others like him that support him and encourage him to do this. While we're arguing among ourselves, the world is falling apart. But some people that like bringing the Bible by prayer, if you really read the Bible in the New Testament, action speaks louder than words. Words are nice, but we actually got to get out there and do something. And the thing I see is the young people are actually starting to see that, and it gives me hope that the younger generation will actually try and do something and not just talk about it and argue about it.
I agree with you 100%, Augie. And I think that's what I would hope that we can learn to do as well. And that is, and you know, that gets to me a lot of times that we want to be rigid. I like something LBW, I think it was LBW who said on Substack about rigidity, etc. But anyhow, Augie, I got to go to one last caller before we close this baby down. So let's talk tomorrow. Thank you so kindly for calling, brother. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning,
you and I have talked about this before. Yeah, we talked about this before. How many people died building the Panama Canal?
Quite a few, but mostly my people, not Americans.
No, there was actually about 5,600 Americans.
No, that's a false statement that Donald Trump continues to put out there.
It's not.
I'm not. Look, brother. I am from Panama, and I can tell you that most of the people who died building the canal were my ancestors. We built the canal. We paid for it with the malaria. We paid for it with the yellow fever. We paid for it for the accidents that occurred with the dynamite blowing up Culebra Cut. This is not up for debate, sir. My people died building the canal.
You know that?
My people built the canal. Actually, you are the angry one, my dear brother. Again, I repeat, you are wrong. Continue.
Okay, how did Panama come to be? I mean,
Panama was a creation. Panama was a creation of the United States by putting a gunboat in the Gulf of Colón, where my city is from. Used a few rebels in Panama because Colombia did not give them the ability to, did not justify them building the canal from the Lesseps, the French agency that that actually was trying to build a sea level canal then.
Yeah. you have a lot of anger in you. You should get under control. All right, now Hitler was what? What type of government did he have? He's a socialist.
Hitler is a fascist, but that's okay. All right. Hey, what else do you want to add, Brian, before we move on? What else, Brian?
No, it worked out real good for like 6 million Jews, isn't it? Back to the Panama Canal. Trump is trying to get it back from control of China, but you don't say anything about that, and the Panamanian government is trying to do so.
Because you're wrong. China never had control of the Panama Canal. Brother, relatives of mine are administrators of the canal, okay? China has no control of the canal. China had 2 ports. One of the things you love to do is you listen to the propaganda over here. What we have is a bully trying that failed miserably in Central America. While we have been dropping bombs around the world, while we bombed and killed 10,000 Panamanians, China has been around the world with their I forgot the plan that they call building roads. They're doing it for their own interest. Yeah, they're doing that for their own interests. Yes, exactly. They're doing that for their own interests. America is doing what it's doing for its own interests. It's just that right now, China is playing the smarter game. The smarter game is not to bomb the smithereens out of people and look like a bully. The smarter game is to get people to like you. And guess what? People around the world like China. And you know why they like China? Because China is around the world building freeways, building hospitals, building ports. And you know what we're doing? We are bombing places. And whenever somebody asks for money, they say, what can our corporations get out of the deal? Sir, it's not about, you can play a politically smart game or you cannot. China is showing to play a much smarter political game than the United States is. I am a United States citizen. I love the United States. And our government is pathetic in the way it plays international politics. Close out.
Hey, I have one quick thing. My wife is born in China, and she prays to God each and every day that she got out of that type of government. And you want it here in the United States. You write books about how bad it is here in the United States. Why don't you
have
move
a wonderful day. Brian, wake up. Anyway, let me throw it to the studio real quick. Studio.
Well, the antics of Donald Trump has just handed China the big wins in Canada and other places. So what does that tell you? That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Very smart. Jack?
Jack says no.
All right, folks, please. Great videos I had for today. It's at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You guys took over the show. Anyway, folks, you can write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.